And happy to say, Jackie Shiels is with us. Hey, Jackie.
Hi, how are you?
Very well,
Great to be
and
here.
good to have you. Anna Caplice as well. Hey, Anna.
Hi, what's the crack?
Uh, what's the crack with you, by the way? There's a kind of wanderlust aspect to your career, and you were enjoying your last season, or planned to be last season over in La Rochelle, and nasty concussion in January, and it's proving nasty.
Yeah, yeah, I'm still out of action. I haven't played since then, so still in recovery mode. It was kind of against the clock to recover before the end of the season because I was going to retire at the end of the season, and now I don't know. I'm kind of go from one day to the next. Like this last week now was the first time I was able to actually kind of get back to training. I'm not fully 100% yet, but there is a little bit more hope that I had. So I kind of was like, no, I'm done. Like, that's it. I can't, I'm not going to play again. But now I'm a little bit between two minds. Let's see. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling better, but I'm still not 100%. So it's been a long drawn out one, which was so close to the end. But, yeah, who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's happening next. So let's see.
Had you a history of concussion problems down the years?
No, I'm lucky that I hadn't. I had a few short ones, and that I was kind of careful about and monitored about, and so I never had anything like this before, which is I'm very lucky, and I'm very, very kind of disappointed to have, been pipped by it at the final post. So let's see, but I am lucky not to have a history of it.
And are the symptoms just when you're moving or running and the blood is pumping, or is it infringing on daily life as well?
Oh no, very much was infringing on daily life. Like the thing about concussion is you talk to so many people, everyone reacts to concussions so differently. Like people get very emotional, people get very down. Like thankfully my mood was okay. Because especially since it's been this long, I was able to kind of feel positive about it, but like concentration, like in the first couple of weeks, I couldn't even prepare my dinner without needing to sit down. I had to be signed off work and couldn't train at all. Like, thankfully, I was able to go on my bike outside. Like, I did like hundreds of kilometers on my bike, but then I couldn't do 5 minutes inside on the watt bike because of space and perception and vision. But it's all connected, kind of vision, concentration, noise. So dizziness, I suppose, is the word that I'm using, even though I'm not sure how exactly accurate that is, especially when other people deem dizziness in different ways. But yeah, it's a funny one, and that's something important for players and coaches to remember. Like, your symptoms don't have to be the same as anyone else's to kind of validate them. Like, if you don't feel 100%, you are not 100%. And if I had been that wise, maybe I wouldn't be in this situation, because the problem for me was that I thought I was kind of okay. So I trained and I got a second head knock. That's why I'm in this situation now. So if there's anyone listening that needs to hear this message, like, if you think you might be concussed, you are concussed, and you don't have to kind of validate it through anyone else's feelings. Like, you have to be very honest with yourself as a player, which isn't an easy thing to do either.
Oh, I see. So you took a knock, thought you're okay, trained. How close were the two knocks?
2 weeks later.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And it's strange. Again, another kind of strange thing. My concussion symptoms didn't come on until I had gone back to training that week as well. So my concussion symptoms for me are kind of delayed, and they have been before in the other couple of concussions that I had. So I recognized it and still didn't, had that kind of thing of like, oh, I don't want to say that I'm not okay, silly, stupid of me. So if I can kind of pass that message on to anyone who feels the same, you are 100% right in how you're feeling, and you have to voice it.
Okay. Well, look, loud and clear. It's good to hear things are sort of improving. Is somebody, neurologist or club doctor, going to give you the all clear and say, okay, now you can train away, free of worry, or is it sort of up to you, or how does it work when you get the all clear for something like this?
Yeah, there's all these protocols, but because I haven't had one day yet without symptoms, so I have had a spell of dizziness like every day since it happened, since the second head knock. you have to go 10 days symptom free before you can say, okay, right, they can kind of approve you for playing. But I have glasses, like these glasses are new, and they're helping me a lot, which is so strange considering that my reaction, my symptoms were brought on by things like noise and concentration, but it's the glasses that seem to be helping, because they explained it quite well to me in French, mind, so it's hard to kind of understand everything, but the kind of all the connectors to your brain are working together, so the glasses are helping that. So that's been a real kind of revelation, and I feel that's why I felt better in training last week, is because of wearing the glasses for a few days in a row. So yeah, it's interesting.
Sorry to hear, a bit of an ordeal, to say the least. I know you've really enjoyed La Rochelle, playing for La Rochelle. It'd be a tough way to finish in January with the concussion, so I'm sure you'd like to get back out there for a nicer farewell in the sunshine.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's see what happens.
It's no fun, Jackie, rugby, when it's like that.
No, likewise, I'm fortunate enough. I didn't take many headbangs. Maybe I didn't go into enough contact, but I was lucky I avoided the concussions as well. But I have heard horror stories, so I wish Anna a speedy recovery there.
Yeah, best of luck, Anna. Hopefully things work out okay with that. We are here to discuss Six Nations, Women's Six Nations. So just to recap for people who haven't been following it in great depth, Ireland started off against France, and 15-27 did not represent the flow of that game. Dana O'Brien had a kick with about 67 minutes in the clock to get level. And unlike her and unlike subsequent games, she missed it, and then France pulled away. So that was a kind of disappointing start, albeit much improved Irish performance. And then we had the win in Parma, 54-12, which really backed up this growing sense that things have improved. Ireland 5, England 29. England are England, but that was respectable for sure. And Ireland took the lead in that game and poked the bear, and then England did what they do. And then at the weekend just gone, Wales 14, Ireland 40. And so one more game to go, Scotland against Ireland, 2:30, Hive Stadium. This would be, if Ireland were to win it, the first time they've won 3 games in the Six Nations since 2020. I suppose it's another, and we'll get into the particulars of the game. Like, I know Scott Bemand said that he didn't feel Ireland played especially well against Wales. He said it's a weird disappointment. We feel like we left points out there, and they scored 40 of them. This Six Nations campaign, Jackie, has just underlined and reassured that what we saw last year is real, and this is going in the right direction. And I guess 40 points against Wales, dispatch of them, that kind of it's another example that things are going in the right direction.
Yeah, like, I suppose looking into this year's Six Nations, we always kind of say France and England are above us, and then it's kind of the best of the rest, kind of the 4 teams. But I think we put ourselves well above the rest. And on reflection, I would say the biggest disappointment, as long as Sunday or Saturday goes to plan, would be the French game. I think they maybe, that's the one day Leroux, they were very close to France. It was a mistake from that game. You kind of wonder, had the order of games gone slightly different, if we had met France a little bit further down the line, would it have been a very different result? But, really positive first half against England. All that game really showed was the depth that England have. Like, when you can bring players like Sarah Byrne on the bench and Holly Aitkenson off the bench, that's the difference. And that's what England are doing. They're blooding players in preparation for the World Cup. But that first half that Ireland played, the defence was exceptional. Getting a try was really, really positive. But it's just the second half. As a country, we'll be disappointed with that. But I know Scott was disappointed as well. And I actually agree with him on the Welsh game. I know I sat and watched it on Easter Sunday there, and just wasn't what I was expecting. Like, yeah, they won really well and they scored really good tries, but a lot of errors, and that's the difference. Those errors will be punished by the likes of France, will be punished by the likes of England, and will be punished by the likes of New Zealand in the World Cup. You can make those errors against Wales and probably not get punished. I think we missed touch 3 or 4 times. Those things, they're the difference between getting those scores or getting those results against the big teams. And unfortunately, we didn't do that against France. But Scott's a real man for the detail, and he'll make sure he identifies that, and hopefully those mistakes won't happen again at the weekend. Yeah,
they cited the breakdown as well in the first half has been very messy. It's funny, even you mentioned something like the just the errors and the mistakes and the missed touches. Like an overwhelming memory, Jackie, from the French game are those missed touches, and led directly to French tries. I think Stacey flooded 2 of them and under not much pressure either.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was watching the Italy France game, and Italy were within 1 point of France with 10 minutes to go, and 2 kicks again. And when you're playing the likes of France, who are pure jouet, and England as well to a degree, that will play off anything, especially with a back two like they have, that's the difference between getting into the top two in the Six Nations, or getting into a quarterfinal, semi-final in the World Cup. So look, it's you don't want to be making mistakes. You don't want to be picking out players, because no one does it deliberately. I was an out half myself for 12 at times, and you're obviously looking to kick the touch and the pressure or whatever. Like, you're trying to get those extra meters to give the line out a better position. But it's just, they're errors we can't afford to make against the big teams.
So, Anna, we're all seeing the improvement with our own eyes, but lots of mistakes and errors and room for improvement in there too, is the general sense.
Yeah, it's funny, like, I agree with, like, a lot of the points that Jackie's brought up there are all in my notes from the last couple of weeks, and things about, like, France turning up like that to Italy, and Italy nearly having a go at them. Like, I'm sure the Irish girls would have been watching it being like, oh, I wish that was us in that position. We would have been able to take them. Like, but it's funny. One of my notes from, like, the beginning of before the tournament was, do results matter? That was one of the questions I had written down. And, like, on reflection, and even at the time, it was a little bit like, in a World Cup year, like, the results, not really. I feel like the message to France and to England matters, because you're teeing yourself up for what's coming down the line. So let's see, you got it all right, and you were able to beat France. That's a strong message. But if you can't, were you able to get under their skin regardless? And, like, at least that, and that is definitely true for both of those cases, both of those teams. And I think Jackie's right about Ireland having it. Yeah, it goes the two at the top, and then everyone else, and then there's the battle for everyone else for third place. But I think Ireland have made this extra tier for themselves there in the middle. Now, they'll have to obviously back that up this weekend, but I think definitely at their best and at Scotland's best, Ireland are far superior and can kind of solidify that little gap in the middle. But they definitely feel like they'll be able to take France, and France will feel like Ireland will be able to take them. And I don't know what kind of, like, messages were being sent on the pitch, but I don't know if you heard Aoife Wafer was talking about on the pitch against England, and she said to Meg Jones, kind of when the game was still, like, in the balance, and maybe England were starting to run away with it, and there was a little bit of a tussle, and Aoife Wafer said, "Oh, are you scared we're going to beat you?" And I just thought it was an amazing, like, message. I don't know, Jackie, what you were like with the trash talk, but I just thought it was an amazing little, like, message to get in there while you have the chance. Like, send those messages. If you can't get the results on paper, how are you making the other team feel? And I just think even though they couldn't get those results against France, especially, they've definitely sent those messages that, like, we're coming for you.
Yeah. Do you buy that, Jackie? Have they sent those messages?
I definitely think against France. Yeah, I think, but France weren't great against Italy. And I think France, I don't know what's going on with France at the moment. Like, I don't know if they're dragging players out. I see they had, the captain overplaying a bit of 7. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I probably wouldn't trash talk Meg Jones when she came out and scored a pretty impressive individual try then. I wouldn't poke the bear with England personally. But look, fair play. Like, first half, Ireland were definitely in it, and defensively, Ireland were fantastic, and the turnovers were great. And Aoife Dalton, I think, and Aoife Wafer, they're really exciting players there. So yeah, definitely, I'm up for giving a little bit of a chat. I suppose I prefer to talk with the rugby ball and with the scoreboard, and I kind of keep the voices a little bit lower, but that's my style. But I think I keep reflecting on that England game. I just think the depth that England had, like, and I don't think England have put out their best 15 in any game just yet. You look at the results England had. Italy held them scoreless for 40 minutes. Like, that's unheard of. But yet then the first half they destroyed them. Wales went in after 20 minutes and England hadn't got a score, which was a bit random as well. But if you look at what England are putting out, like, they have not put out the same 15 players. They haven't put out the same combinations at 9 and 10 and 12, which are like your playmakers. They've a different back three every week. Like, I actually personally forgot about Claude MacDonald. I hadn't even thought about her in the first 3 games. And I don't know where she gets a player to match performance. So yeah, I think we've made ourselves, a bit of an island there at number 3. I definitely think France are a team that we should massively have a go at. I just think England are building unbelievable depth, and that's something that Ireland are building. I'm really excited to see that Ireland, for once, like if you think about 3 or 4 years ago, if Ireland lost a player of the caliber of Erin King the week of a game, like it'd be distraught. We'd be like, who's going in there? And she's a huge loss. And obviously, Adele McMahon coming in there was phenomenal. But not only that, like I think Dardy Wall had a phenomenal game at second row. Like her lineouts for a girl that probably hasn't been performing at the lineouts like I'd like her to see, haven't played with her Blackrock. Erin King has been the go-to in lineouts. I thought Doherty was excellent in the lineout on at the weekend. So I think that's really exciting about Ireland, and that's really positive going forward, that we're losing top class players and it's seamless what's coming in. That probably hasn't been the case for a number of years in the setup.
On Dorothy Wall, by the way, I thought she came off the bench against Italy with a bit of fire in the belly, point to prove. She's kind of getting back towards the form when she burst on the scene a couple of years ago.
Yeah, like I played with Dorothy there at Blackrock for a couple of seasons, first went off to Exeter, and like that, I thought she had huge potential. That was super exciting, and like I think I agree, she had a little bit of a dip in form.
Yeah.
And I think as you said, like putting her on the bench there for the match there against Italy really kind of got her going, and then she came on. But she was phenomenal there against England in the first half, and a real go-to person in the line out. So, but I think any player that gets kind of, I suppose, dropped or rotated, whatever word you want to use, they're going to come back with a bite, and that's what you want to see. That's the attitude he wants from his players. He wants players kind of going, do you know what? I'm good enough to be out here, and I'm going to prove it to you. And that's what they're doing, which is great for the squad and great for the year that's in it.
Yeah, I don't think she thought it was rotated somehow.
That's the word we use.
Is it? Yeah. You're rested. Just to take up the England thing or finish off that point, and then we'll come back to Ireland. Anna, in terms of different messages, then to continue your theme. I'd sort of agree with Jackie that the message England have sent this tournament is we're thinking about the World Cup and not the Six Nations, and our team selections reflect that. I mean, you can't overstate their dominance, really. They'll play France at the weekend. This will be a fourth Grand Slam in a row. COVID interrupted previous Grand Slam, but it's a seventh Six Nations title in a row. Like, I think the days of us talking about it's the big two, that's not even how we have to frame this tournament anymore. It's England are miles in front. They'll generally beat France. They'll probably win 8, 9, 10 Six Nations in a row. France don't look to be going in a brilliant direction. It's England, and now it's can Ireland close the gap on France? But I mean, there is an England problem with this tournament. This tournament would be brilliant if England weren't in it. Like, they're kind of ruining it a touch, Anna. They're too good, and I don't know how anyone closes the gap on them anytime soon.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that England also finds this frustrating that like they, like Jackie's saying, like they can just rotate their squad so much. They've managed it quite well, being so far ahead of everyone. And I think that they felt like when they put the foot on the gas with like developing their league, building the professionalism in their side from the top down, and then starting from the bottom up as well, that other nations would follow suit and that people would catch them a bit quicker than we've been able to manage. And that hasn't been the case. And it hasn't actually worked for England, because at this stage, no one has been able to like push them. And now, like I talk about that Aoife Wafer message, like I don't think there's a case there now that England are like, oh God, we're going to turn up and Aoife Wafer is going to appearing in all their nightmares. I don't think that's the case. I just kind of really liked that, like she was ballsy enough to say it. I think though that England, as good as they are, and we talk about the World Cup final, and a lot of people will say that the red card in the World Cup final is what lost it for England. But I would have said England could beat any country in the world with 14 players. Like, no problem. Like, that's how good they were. The problem for them is no one puts them under huge pressure. So then when the pressure does come on, like in a World Cup final, in a home World Cup final for New Zealand, they didn't know what to do, and there were changes made and there were decisions being made that were so un-England like in that final, and it cost them. Actually being this dominant has cost them. I think they've learned a lot from that. I think they have learned a lot from that last experience at the World Cup and coming into their own home World Cup. I remember because I was playing over there at the time, kind of in the years leading up to that, and I know that 3 years out from that, a ball would go down on the ground in training in England camp, and the reference would be like, this isn't going to win us a World Cup. That was kind of how focused they were on like a step that was like they hadn't even got to yet, So I know that they've learned a lot from that. They seem to have like a completely different approach this time round. It's a home World Cup. They need to figure out how to get the best out of themselves because other teams aren't pushing them enough. Canada is the only one that kind of was able to push them to get the best out of themselves. The other thing is they're enjoying playing so much that they're able to kind of run away with it in that last half an hour, 20 minutes, like we see in every Six Nations game, and they're really enjoying it. But then when they really start to sweat, do they know what to do? And to only be put under that pressure in a World Cup final, that's not good enough prep. So that's really difficult for them to try and figure out.
Yeah. Jackie, as for the tournament, I mean, you can watch it through Irish eyes, and that's what we're doing. But it is when you think of the parallel with the men's, where it's so competitive and anyone can beat anyone on a given day, give or take. It's maybe fallen back a touch in the last year or two. It is kind of a difficult sell. I was even listening to the BBC podcast on the Women's Six Nations last week, and they're English, and they were even sort of saying, yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to know what to say about this tournament. I mean, imagine so we're Ireland. We get to preview. Can they give France a game, etc. Imagine being like an English podcast. What do you talk about?
Well, I'd say probably what they're talking about is rotation and preparation for a World Cup that they need to win and they want to win, and all expectations are on them to win. And it's about
it's pretty boring though, isn't it? If they
brought in a sevens player last week.
Yeah, but you're reduced to like, what does this mean for the World Cup in X number of years, as opposed to what a great game this weekend. It's just not a great sell, I think, to the public. Although they're filling out a lot of these stadiums. So
yeah, like they had 21,000 even in the Principal Stadium, and that's obviously in Wales. Like there wasn't 21,000 Welsh fans in that stadium. Like I think what England do very well is they've marketed their players very well, and they've a real kind of buzz around their players. Like after a game, you don't see the score. You see Sarah Byrne doing a dance with some spectators. You know, after a game, you don't see, the statistics for the game. You see Ellie Kildone and the Cowboy Group or whatever they call themselves. So they're definitely they're clever marketing and what their fan base is and who their fan base are. And I suppose they're looking more at the youths and the Red Roses symbol and that generation of girls playing rugby. And look, it's who are we to say it's the wrong thing to do? Like their product is really, really good. Their PWR is really, really good. They've got players from all over the world who want to go and play in their Premiership. We had this discussion maybe 10, 15 years ago. England were ahead of us 10, 15 years ago. And I'm a big believer in it's not their job to lower their standards. Oh, no. It's our job to raise our standards. And in fairness, like all the other nations are improving, but it's, as Anna said, it's just not at the rate that England need. But can you imagine what England training sessions are like? Like, can you imagine like what their internal games are like? I think one thing I look at this squad compared to the squad that lost in New Zealand, they seem to be enjoying rugby a bit more, and they seem to be playing a little more flair. I think years gone by, England women were similar to England men, and they played a very structured style of rugby. But now they just seem to play a little bit more off the cuff and what they want to do. They have players everywhere. Like, their pack is phenomenal. They play from anywhere. You have Alex Matthews, she's 31 now. You have Al Croft. You have Marley Packer can't get into the squad. So yeah. I think there is great expectation and great pressure on this girl and these women to perform. They have a sold out Twickenham for a World Cup final. And as Anna said, like, I'd say training is fairly intense because they know that all eyes are watching them. They basically, if they don't win this World Cup, then they have absolutely failed in their mission. Yeah.
Yeah, no, geez, it's not to be critical then. They are the standard bearers. They're going to drag everyone with them eventually. It's funny,
but yeah, it's disappointing from a tournament point of view. But yeah. I think the rest of the games are quite interesting. Like did we ever think that Italy would run France tight? Yeah. 8 minutes to go. Did we ever? Like, I didn't even think Italy would beat Scotland. Scotland had been performing so well. I think the biggest disappointment, obviously, is we have a last man standing, and I think, not being disrespectful, but once you pick the team that are playing Wales, you're pretty much guaranteed to stay in the competition. I think Wales are a concern, but with Sean Lynn there, I think they will get better. They've definitely got better, but it's just a time frame. He hasn't had enough time with them. Like, he's a really excellent coach, and they're getting better, but just not there yet. And that's a disappointment.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see, because I'm sure there's great minds thinking about the women's game and how to market it and how to, have interesting spectacles. And so the lines is going to happen, but like, you kind of look at the lines and you're like, God,
who do you pick?
You could have 15 English players there. You could conceivably. And I'd half an idea. I think the biggest problem with my idea, before I say it, is I think it would undermine the Six Nations then. But like, if you gave me a 3-test series, yeah, or even if you want to go the Celtic nations of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, maybe throw in Italy, I don't know, but maybe there's a Celtic thing, you know, 3 tests against England. In Dublin, in Edinburgh, in Cardiff. Come on, England, let's do this. Like, but again, then it's hard to then say tune in for England, Wales in 6 months' time. But you know that kind of stuff would be interesting.
England would love that, and marketing would love that. But I don't think the Ireland, Scotland, and Wales girls would enjoy being put together to try and beat England.
No, I hear you.
But I get where you're coming from, especially with the Celtic Cup. Like it's not a totally out of the realm of possibility, but. I agree with you. Like the line sounds phenomenal. Like what an amazing opportunity. But realistically, you know, each nation might have 1 or 2 token players. Well, not token. Sorry,
no.
Would be in there.
Okay, Ethan, but there'd have to be a. Listen,
but there would be a few token.
We have to get a Scot in here. Do you know what I mean? There would be.
Yeah, it'd be a bit like the Sevens when GB went to the Olympics the first time under the GB heading. You know, there was English girls left out of the squad, and there was Scottish and Welsh girls put in there who are excellent rugby players. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think if you were a genuine rugby fan, you would say there was questions over their selection over the English players.
Yeah, which is dreadful on the players left out. You know, it's shocking, really. Yeah. Geez, I've gone way off. Anna, do you want to somehow wrap all that neatly up before I come back to Ireland?
Do
you like my lines idea?
No, yeah, I'm just thinking about the players there. Like the thing is. And what Jackie's talking about there, like the girls who may sit at home for another player who maybe on paper isn't as good as the girl sitting at home, but because she's a different nationality and they needed that diversity in the squad. But the thing is, like those English girls are so competitive, they're not happy being 2nd, 3rd or 4th pick in their position anyway. So if they can't get to be the best in the English squad or for that position as an English player, that's the standard they're going off. I'm not sure they'd be like, oh, that's unfair. She got to go ahead of me, whereas they're already kind of down the pecking order in English terms. It's tough, but I think that's their actual goal, is to be as good as they can for England, as opposed to being better than other nationalities to go on the lines. Or maybe this is like, you know, the dream for like playing for the Lions that we've learned, like from the men's side, as an inaugural thing to do. What is the right way to go about it? I'm not sure. It is very, very difficult.
Yeah, because I get, you know, if you mirror the men's game, you get the immediate, everyone understands the concept, and there's this sort of history you're half kind of grabbing a little bit of, and a prestige, but then if it doesn't suit the women's game, it doesn't, and people will quickly see through that, and these are the kind of balances, you know.
But also, I suppose, like New Zealand in women's rugby, years gone by would have been probably the best, but I think England have shown that they are as equally as good as them, if not better in some respects. So the Lions playing New Zealand, or like the Lions playing Australia women, again, no disrespect to Australian women, but Ireland can beat them. Individual countries can beat them by themselves. So if they have to amalgamate, does it have the same message? But look, that's down the road.
We're sorting out a lot of problems here. I'd love to hear from you both. So Scott Bemand here is in just his 2nd season. It looks from the outside like he's doing a very good job. Anna, what would you say about Bemand as you get to know him and know his selections and hear through the grapevine about how he's managing this group? Are you impressed with him?
I am. I'm very impressed. And even last year, when we were just kind of getting to know the squad and we were still figuring out as well, was this something that was this a fluke? Was Ireland just kind of on a high after WXV or sorry, not WXV2, and was it a fluke? And was he building something sustainable? Like that was the question that kind of we were asking last year. And I went to Le Mans last year to watch Ireland-France, and after the game, so this might seem like just such a small little detail, but I was so impressed with, as a former player, I was so impressed with usually the substitutes and the travelling reserves. Now, in my day, which isn't long ago, the travelling reserves, you'd have one travelling reserve that came, but there was like 5-6 travelling reserves that came with the squad. So basically, if you were in the training squad, you would come anyway to take part in trainings and have numbers on away trips. That was normal for training at home, but this was obviously an expense, like further the expense to like make it a bigger travelling squad to have better quality trainings while you were on your away trips. And after that game in France, there was just a bunch of players doing their catch-up fitness. So if you don't play your full 80 minutes, you've got to kind of, catch up on that because you've done all the carb loading. So you have to burn off that energy, and you need that kind of the miles in your legs anyway. Usually it's just a running straight. It's very boring. It's absolute torture. It's really challenging, like, for your head. But what I saw was a big bunch of players, and even some of the injured players were there, like delivering a ball and a pass, playing games, communicating, 2v1s, 3v2s, executing things. Like, so that was their post-game fitness. And that was the first kind of thing for me that began to show, because we'd already been like, okay, this is impressive. But that first thing for me that I saw there that day in Le Mans, I was like, wow, that's really nice. Like, that is something that seems to be showing that this is not just a normal, like, flash in the pan thing of success, but this is something that's being built. And like the thing, as time goes on, I'm just so happy to see kind of the game being built around the skills of certain players. Like, you talk about Daro there and like her line out ability, and then that maul drive. Like, a lot of coaches will kind of want a ready-made product to just kind of show up and like slot into whatever visions they have. He is arranging his visions around the players that he has, and that for me is amazing. Like, look at Dan O'Brien. Like, where would you get like a kicker like that, who's just being like so like lifted up and facilitated? And I think in the past, if we had a kicker like that, there'd be almost fear around them, and like, you have to guide them to make sure you're getting the best out of them. Like, he's giving her a platform, and those mistakes we're talking about, that she'll have been disappointed with. Like, he talks so positively about them after games. He seems to know them so well, really backing them up if they have made an error, showing that he trusts them. And then like seeing kind of how the girls are happy. It's always easy to look into the outside and think that everything's perfect, but that is how it looks. It looks as if it's a really happy, constructive, hardworking, positive environment where the players are loving to be. And literally, you can't ask for any more than that from a head coach.
Yeah, really interesting. Jackie, are you similarly impressed with Scott Bemand?
Yeah, I think Anna talks a lot there, and I agree with what she's saying there. We were fortunate enough. Michelle, who I coach with in Navan, obviously as well. She was up the Wolfhounds 2 years ago, and we met Scott around the high performance centre. I think his presence is really, really important. He's at the Wolfhounds, at the Celtic, the Cup teams, with the Clovers as well. And it's interesting. I think Michelle was telling me one thing about one of his coaching strategies. He said everything has to be a contest. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And even when you're doing like a little drill, just make it a contest. Like, have a winner and a loser. And I suppose I'm coaching now in Navan, and little things, we bring a lot of that into our game. So when you give the women a drill to do, like, they'll go through the drill. But if you make it a little bit of a contest, suddenly the standards pick up. So I think he's got very clever coaching strategies, and that's only one I've heard of. And like that, I've witnessed him. And what I really like about him is his post-match interviews. He doesn't shy away from the conversation. He's not happy when they lose. He's not satisfied that, they were in the game for a half. He's always identifying that, he said, we're not happy enough just to be the third team in the competition. He's looking for better from them, and he's demanding better from them. And I think, as Anna said, it's not just the results, it's the performance. Like, if Ireland won against Wales last year, was it 40 points, 14? Like, no one would talk about it, but he was like, I wasn't happy with the performance. Yeah. And that's what's really, I suppose, satisfying as a spectator, but as a person who loves rugby and wants Ireland to do better. He is identifying where they can be better. He's not just happy with the results. He wants there to be a performance backing that up. And I think that's what's really positive about him. And as Anna said, like, he's built a really good squad. He's giving girls game time. Like, you look there, like, we haven't seen David Parsons play yet because obviously injury. Yeah. And I was looking at some stats there. Ireland scored 18 tries this year. There was years gone by where our top try scorer was penalty tries. That was the reality of it. We had Six Nations there once.
A couple of years, Jackie, you couldn't imagine Ireland even scoring a try. You just didn't see how it was going to come. We had
Six Nations, I think we had more penalty tries than anything else. Whereas this year, like, Aoife Wafer, she's a try score machine, but she had two, and you had Dara getting two, and then Anna McGann getting 3. And if the wingers are scoring tries, that means the ball's getting to the wing. And that's really rewarding as a rugby coach. So, to score 18 tries, and that's in line with France.
Yeah.
We're at the same source. And the other thing that I looked at the stats today, which is really positive, England are whatever, plus 184 points. France are plus whatever, 78. We're on plus 12. And the rest of the countries are all on negative scoreboards. So, from a rugby point of view, he's doing exactly what he wants us to do. We're in the positives. Our stats are looking good. And he's identifying where we can get better. And that's all you can ask for in a coach. Someone that he's demanding what we're getting, and he still wants better from us.
Okay, that's really positive. Oh, it's great. God, it was miserable talking about this team for a few years. This is just so much nicer. And by the way, Aoife Wafer, keep up the sledging. She is joint top try scorer in the competition with Ellie Kildoon and Abby Dow. So have a bit of that, England, says Aoife Wafer.
Yeah. See, then you can trash talk. You can definitely trash talk if you are top try scorer for your country and joint top scorer with a full back and a winger.
Yeah.
Come on, that's incredible.
Yeah. The World Player of the Year and Aoife Wafer.
She can trash talk all she wants.
She's some player, isn't she? I mean, she's the real deal.
Yeah. She, and again, blessed enough to have played with her in Blackrock for her first season. I think I met her when she was 18, and I was like, this girl is going to be unbelievable. But what I really like about Aoife, she's very down to earth. She came out to the club there one day, and she just loves rugby. You can just see it. She loves playing, loves getting on the ball, loves confrontation. She puts her body places where other people wouldn't put anything. But I just think you can just see that she absolutely is thriving, and she's thriving under that management, as Anna said. But I think in the environment, they're allowed to be who they want to be. They're allowed to talk to their fans after their game. They're allowed to take pictures. I was laughing there at Cork, those young girls going, "Can I have your jersey?" And I was standing next to a girl called Caroline Mahan, who I played with in 2010. And we were like, Jeannie Mac, back in 2010, you couldn't give away anything because you needed it for the next game.
Yeah.
And there they were. The girls were handing their jerseys over. And I was laughing. I think Dorothy gave her jersey to a girl, and the girl gave her jersey back. And Dorothy was standing in the middle of the pitch, and the dad of the girl says, "Will you give her a shout? That's part of your kit for the weekend." So the girl had given away her club jersey. It was just, these things are magical, and that's what you want. You want there to be a real buzz around women's rugby in this country, and there finally is, because they're performing on the pitch, they're accessible off the pitch, and they're enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah. So Scotland on Saturday, and you'd make Ireland favourites, and so hopefully they can really rubber stamp everything that we're talking about. I had just one email in to finish on, if I could read it to you and get your thoughts on it. I thought it was very interesting. It came into Indo Sport podcast at independent.ie. The subject line was girls' involvement in rugby, and it was written by Gav, and he said, "Lads, just had to mail in with a few points on the Women's Six Nations. My 2 daughters, 8 years old, 5 years old, play in a Dublin club, and I coach them as well. It's fantastic. One of their main coaches plays for Leinster in Ireland and gladly offers their time up every Sunday morning to the girls. I have tried repeatedly for years to grow the numbers in the club, but I am met with one huge barrier every time. Mothers tell me their daughters cannot possibly play such a violent sport as rugby. Yet they have no problem that their sons play it. The girls that do play also play soccer, GA, hockey, but they love their rugby. They love the contact aspect. It sets it apart. We've recently taken to holding more sessions with other clubs to ensure bigger numbers, and that works very well." And then he talks about bringing a bunch of them down to the England game in Cork. Brilliant spectacle. Women's teams had a rough few years. The evidence now is they're on the way up. World Cup is going to show this. All the best, Gav. You guys are on the ground. You love your rugby. Is this something that you encounter, Jackie? Is there an old-fashioned, I'm sure, full of love for their precious little girl, that rugby's not quite for them?
Yeah, definitely. Again, as I mentioned, I am coaching there in the club, and we're working really hard to get underage girls to join. And we've got to give it a try starting soon. And there is that misconception, isn't it, that it's so violent and so rough. And I think the big message I keep getting to parents is that the good thing about rugby is they're working really hard behind the scenes to make it safer. Obviously, Anna talked about concussion at the start of the session, which doesn't really help in this conversation, but the tackle height at club level has been reduced. So suddenly, you're going from tackling, I suppose, shoulder down to sternum. That makes a big difference at club level for parents that understand that, your daughter will only be getting tackled from the chest down. Therefore, there's less chance of those impact. But I think the big reason that parents are concerned is that, and I know this happens in a lot of places, they're kind of thrown into games a bit too early.
Right.
I think the big thing for girls and youth rugby for me is getting girls and youth training So they learn how to fall safely. They learn how to tackle safely. They're all, once you spend a couple of weeks or months at the fundamentals and then gradually build it into games, I think you'll see less injuries. But probably what happens is you get a phone call from a club saying, oh, we're short a few numbers. Do you want to come play a game? And somebody signs up on a Monday, they play a game on a Saturday. And then because they don't know which side to put their head on or where to put their shoulder, they're coming home and getting injured. And they're the horror stories we hear. Like, I'm a teacher as well. And I know that there's been opportunities where, we've been invited to contact blitzes, and I'm able to coach rugby, but I refuse to enter contact blitzes for certain age groups. We don't have enough time to prepare them properly. So I do think that's played a part in it. But I'll hit on one funny thing you said there. Recently, my wife had a son there. He's 9 months old, and everyone says, will he play rugby? And I kind of say to everybody, if it was a girl, 100%. 100% I'd have her playing rugby if it was a girl. I said, he's a small boy. I said, but when he grows up, unless he's 6 foot tall and built like a brick, I said, I'm not sure if I'll let him play rugby. And that's funny because with my son, I'm not sure if he'll play rugby, but I know if I had a daughter, I'd 100% put her into rugby. I think because in girls rugby, like we always say this, it's every size, every shape, every ability. There is a place for you in a club playing women's rugby. And I think, you'll find a level for yourself. If you are that really, physical, vibrant player, you'll go and play at the top level. And if you're that woman who just enjoys getting out on a Sunday and enjoying rugby for rugby, you'll find a club for your level. Whereas I suppose at male rugby, which is so funny that they don't mind, but I watched some local games there recently, like it's brutal at every age group. They're just physical and they're mad and they're hitting everybody and they're so vicious. You don't really have that as much in the women's rugby at that age group. So yeah, I just think women and parents need to kind of maybe go down to a club, watch a bit of youth rugby and understand that actually there is so much to be learned from club rugby for girls. All those things, body acceptance, getting used to friendships, all that kind of stuff. But just, I suppose, Anna says that the diversity, everybody is welcome in a rugby club. I've made friends playing rugby this in the last couple of years. People I've never encountered from coaching at club level where there's girls that have never played rugby to girls that have played for 10, 20 years. And just the enrichment they've given to my life is incredible.
It's a brilliant answer. Really interesting. Anna, do you want to give us final word again? I mean, you're walking around there with a concussion, so like it's good to highlight both aspects.
Yeah, and Jackie's right. Like rugby is very progressive in terms of like chasing up with new rules, new regulations, testing. Like in every, all the unions are like choosing a league to put tests in. Like it's very proactive in terms of like keeping the player safe. And like, even with injuries, normal injuries, head injuries, whatever, like for me, thankfully, and I know for the majority of people I've played with, like the positives outweigh the negatives like tenfold. Like the person you become, the things you learn, the people you're around. And like, it is such an important thing, like Jackie's saying there, like the diversity in the game, like finding a position for everyone on the pitch is amazing. But there's so many things coming into my head there now, listening to what you were saying there, Jackie. Like the basics is such a massive thing, but it's not just for the newbies. Like the basics need to be done, like broken down, like like you'd see it with like the pros out here in the top 14. They are doing like basic tackle technique all the time. You can't ever, it's not like learning to ride a bike and then you learn and you can do it and then that's fine. It's not like that. You have to keep retouching on the basics, like this whole thing with tackle school. You get a red card and you get a ban and then you have to put a tackle. Like, why aren't all of the players just doing tackle school? Why isn't that a requirement for all of the teams every season, every year? And then that kind of discourages, girls, for example, like, I don't want to join the team because I'm coming to it a bit late or something like that. Like, you don't want to discourage, players who are coming to the game late because there's such great talent in people who are coming to the game late. They can't be excluded. Like, it has to be a sport where doesn't matter when you come, you will learn the basics. We will retouch on the basics every week, every month, like just like small drills here and there. And the email that, was sent in from Gav there, was it like he's doing everything right, like bringing players along, like conversations. There's a woman here in La Rochelle, and I spoke to her. She's kind of old school, old school in her ways, let's say. She spoke to me one day and she said, "Oh, Anna, I hate women's rugby." I was like, okay. I was a bit shocked that she was saying it out loud to me. She knows she knows I'm female rugby there. And she said, "I just don't like, the forwards." Basically saying her image of women is these, slim. Because she said to me, "Oh, I don't mind sevens." So I was like, well, okay, there you go. So you've said to me that that's what it is. Your image of women is smaller, slighter, like your idea of athleticism, whereas actually athleticism in sport and in women's sport particularly is any size. And that's maybe where some of these mothers are coming from. They think that their daughter could be, one of the bigger players that they're not used to seeing. And that's fine. It's not their fault. It's just about conversation. And the conversation went on like this. The lady that I know here in France, I meet her often now, and she said, Anna, I never really thought about it that way. And, and that just came from a conversation we had in a corridor, so always take people up with talking about the game and showing them the positives and the highlights and not shying away from the negatives either. But there's so much positive in the game that I'd hate for any child to miss out because their parents were just afraid of that. So Gav is doing everything right, and it's a great email to get, and well done for opening up that conversation.
Okay, guys, something we might come back to. Really interesting stuff.
Can I add one thing there? Sorry.
Do, Jackie. Yeah, do.
Yeah, just funny enough, as you said, Anna, we were at a social there. I'm reliving my youth. One of my players was 21 on Friday, so I got invited to a 21st. It's been a long time since I was at one of them. But I was chatting to two of the girls who only joined rugby this year and last year, and they're two Gaelic girls, and they're like 26, 27, I think. And I said to them, "Do you enjoy the rugby?" And they said, "We love it." And I said, "How do you find it compared to the Gaelic and that?" And they went, "We love it because we're allowed to be big, strong women." They said it's the first game. They both play county or play club Gaelic, and one of them plays camogie as well. And they said it's the first time we're allowed to play a game where actually we're celebrated for being big and strong and not penalised. And I just think, I walked away from that kind of going, well, I've done my job, and if I can find a few more of those big, strong ladies, I'd be very happy. But I just think, and I go back to Gav there, it is hard work. I've been working trying to build numbers in Navan, and it'll take time and it'll take a bit of an army. But once you get one or two out, the message will spread, and you will get more. But fair play to him, and if he wants a game, just give Navan a shout, and I'll help him out with one underage.
Very good. Brilliant. Guys, that was super. So we'll see how Ireland go on Saturday and pick it up at some stage, I'm sure, down the track. Anna Caplice, Jackie Shiels, brilliant. Thanks, guys.